Sometimes one night can speak louder than 1,000 words, but the silence afterward can tell you everything. The evening began with a quiet tension, the kind that wraps around your chest without warning. He arrives at her suburban home, a 22-year-old man drawn to her presence in ways he cannot fully name. She, a 40-year-old American Caucasian woman with long black hair, exudes confidence that borders on untouchable. Yet, tonight, there's a flicker of hesitation in her dark brown eyes, framed by subtle smile lines that betray both warmth and vulnerability. The living room glows softly under warm overhead lights, the polished wooden floor reflecting the gentle luminescence. She is dressed simply, a cream knit sweater that drapes perfectly over her graceful figure and dark jeans, her presence serene but impossibly magnetic. He notices the way she shifts slightly when she catches his gaze, a brief, graceful adjustment of posture, a hint of nervousness beneath her composed exterior. Their conversation starts light, about the small rhythms of life, coffee they both love, the book she is currently reading, his latest attempts at photography. Yet, beneath the words, there's an unspoken current, a pull of awareness and careful restraint. Each glance, each subtle tilt of her head, sends a quiet thrill down his spine. He notices her hand resting briefly on the armrest near him, the warmth lingering longer than it should, and his heart stutters with the intensity of a connection that refuses to be casual. He notices the way she moves closer when reaching for a book, the small, intimate proximities that feel accidental yet deliberate. A laugh escapes her, soft and melodic, and it brushes against him like a whispered secret. He wants to ask her about her hesitation, the unspoken story behind her poised demeanor, but fear holds him back, the fear of overstepping a boundary she herself has drawn. Moments stretch. Silence enters the room like a soft guest, and in it, he feels everything unsaid. Her eyes flicker toward him, not with flirtation, but with a quiet intensity, an emotional honesty that makes the space between them feel sacred. It is in this fragile, charged silence that he begins to understand the complexity of her world, confident, yet guarded, alluring, yet impossibly careful with her own heart. By the end of the evening, a simple touch lingers, her fingers brushing against his in a fleeting goodbye. The warmth remains long after she retreats to the kitchen, and he sits there, suspended between hope and uncertainty, realizing that one night has already rewritten the rules of his heart. There is no rushing, no overt declarations, only a slow-burn tension that promises depth, honesty, and an emotional journey neither of them expected but both feel drawn toward. The night has settled comfortably over the suburban street, but inside, a subtle tension begins to build. The 22-year-old man notices her in ways that make the ordinary extraordinary. The 40-year-old American Caucasian woman with long black hair sitting gracefully on the sofa, her fingers lightly drumming on the armrest, her posture poised yet relaxed. She wears a soft, cream cardigan over a blouse, dark jeans hugging her curves in a way that feels natural and elegant. Her dark brown eyes flick toward him occasionally, betraying a momentary hesitation he wishes he could decode. Their conversation has shifted from casual banter to personal stories. She speaks with quiet confidence, revealing just enough about her past experiences to intrigue him, but not enough to make him feel like he knows her completely. He leans forward slightly, heartbeats racing, aware of the subtle heat of proximity when she brushes a strand of hair behind her ear. The soft, bright glow of the overhead lights illuminates her lightly tanned skin, the subtle freckles across her nose catching his eye. There's a delicate grace in her movements, the way she tilts her head while speaking, the slight curl of her lips when amused, and the faint crease of smile lines near her eyes that give her an approachable warmth. He tries to focus on the words, but his mind constantly drifts to the nuances of her expressions. A silence falls between them, filled not with awkwardness, but with unspoken curiosity. She shifts closer to him under the pretense of adjusting her blanket, and he feels the magnetic pull of her presence. The smallest touches, a hand resting near his, a fleeting brush of fingers, become monumental in their significance, and he realizes that one night could change everything he assumed about connection. Though she insists it's just one night, there is a weight in her gaze, a quiet longing that mirrors his own. He wrestles with hesitation, aware of the age difference, aware of the social boundaries, yet captivated by the authenticity of her warmth. The room seems smaller, cozier, charged with quiet intimacy. He senses that beneath her confident exterior lies a vulnerability, a willingness to let someone see her fully, and it frightens and excites him in equal measure. As they share another small laugh, her eyes lock on his for a fraction longer than expected. The tension, subtle and electric, lingers. He realizes that tonight is no longer just casual. The silences, the touches, the quiet admissions are weaving a connection neither of them can fully articulate yet. In that soft, brightly lit room, one night begins to feel like the threshold of something deeper, fragile yet undeniable. The evening deepens and conversation drifts toward unspoken truths. She relaxes against the sofa, a slight curve of a smile hinting at comfort, yet her dark brown eyes betray her caution. The 22-year-old man senses a vulnerability she cannot yet voice. She speaks in measured tones about her past relationships, her regrets, the moments she cherished alone, never fully letting him inside her guarded world. He listens intently, heart attuned to the subtle tremble in her voice, the way she wraps her long black hair around her fingers, or shifts her body as if weighing each word carefully. Her lightly tanned skin seems to glow under the warm light, her curvy figure and graceful posture emanating both elegance and openness. Each anecdote feels like an invitation to understand her more, yet the line between personal confession and distance is finely drawn. He admits his own hesitations, his own fears about crossing boundaries. The conversation is a dance, measured, deliberate, filled with pauses that stretch into meaningful silences. His hand brushes hers once, unintentional but electric, and both flinch slightly, a shared acknowledgement of their mutual attraction. The air between them hums with emotion, quiet yet undeniable, each gesture weighted with intention and restraint. Outside, the suburban night glows softly, streetlights casting a golden sheen across the windows. The room inside is bright and warm, suffused with an almost tangible intimacy. Every glance exchanged, every slight tilt of her head, deepens the connection. He realizes the fragility of the moment. One misstep could shatter it, yet the desire to bridge the gap is irresistible. By the end of this conversation, the unspoken has gained clarity. Both understand the rules of the night, or at least, the ones she has set, but the tension has evolved into something more profound. Silence carries weight. Proximity becomes a language, and each heartbeat is a testament to the growing emotional intimacy between them. A sudden laughter from a nearby memory breaks the previous tension. She leans closer, brushing a few stray hairs from his face under the guise of playfulness. The 22-year-old man freezes, acutely aware of the warmth of her fingers, the fragrance of her perfume, the curve of her smile lines as she laughs softly. Her dark brown eyes glimmer with mischief, yet conceal the careful restraint she maintains. The gesture is fleeting, almost accidental, but it ripples through him, a reminder that intimacy does not always require grand declarations. She shifts slightly, casual but deliberate, her lightly tanned skin catching the bright, ambient light of the room. He feels drawn to her presence, mesmerized by the graceful lines of her posture and the subtle elegance of her movements. Conversation becomes softer, the volume of laughter and words lower, more private. Each shared glance, every slight touch becomes a statement, a quiet admission that the boundaries they assumed are already blurred. He notices the way her body orients toward him, the gentle lean of her head, and the faint quiver in her lips when she laughs. The night stretches, bright and intimate, and both find themselves savoring these moments of quiet closeness. Every action, however small, is magnified by the emotional weight it carries. One night, she insists, yet every interaction challenges that limitation, hinting at a connection that may endure far longer. The evening has settled into a soft, almost fragile rhythm. The 22-year-old man notices her posture shift, the 40-year-old American Caucasian woman with long black hair now sitting closer on the sofa, her cream sweater gently hugging her lightly tanned, curvy figure, dark brown eyes shadowed with introspection. She glances at him, her mature beauty softened by a flicker of vulnerability. For the first time, she speaks of her fears not about him, but about herself, about opening her heart after years of carefully constructed walls. Her voice is quiet yet firm, each word measured, each breath carrying weight. Her long fingers twist the edge of her sweater, betraying a nervous energy that contrasts with her usual poised elegance. He listens, silently offering the comfort his presence can provide. The room is bright, filled with the warm glow of early evening light filtering through large windows. Every movement feels amplified, the subtle brush of her hand across her lap, the way her eyes linger on his for a heartbeat longer than necessary, the faint curve of her lips hinting at a tentative smile. He reaches out instinctively, placing his hand near hers. The closeness is electric but tender, a mutual acknowledgement of the trust beginning to grow between them. She leans back slightly, sighing softly, her long black hair falling over her shoulders, catching the light. He watches the gentle rise and fall of her chest, the delicate curve of her jaw as she looks down, and realizes that this moment, quiet, sincere, intimate, is far more revealing than any grand declaration could be. Their conversation pauses. Silence fills the room, but it is no longer uncomfortable. It is alive with understanding, unspoken emotion, and a delicate, mutual longing. In this bright, comfortable space, one night begins to feel like the first chapter of something far more profound. The night deepens. The 22-year-old man senses the pull between them intensifying. The 40-year-old American Latino woman with long black hair sits across from him, her dark brown eyes glimmering with emotions she cannot yet name. Lightly tanned skin, subtle freckles, and the graceful curves of her figure reflect both maturity and warmth under the bright evening light. She's dressed casually, a cream sweater and dark jeans, her posture poised yet relaxed. They exchange small touches, a hand brushing against his, an accidental lean closer, each igniting a quiet fire that neither wants to name aloud. Words become secondary. The room hums with unspoken desires and unacknowledged longings. He notices the way her lips twitch into a soft smile when their eyes meet, the way she tilts her head, drawing him further into her orbit. A subtle tension dominates the atmosphere. He wants to ask her to stay, to share more than this single night, but she remains steadfast in her earlier declaration. Yet, the vulnerability in her gaze tells him that even she feels the depth of the connection growing. Each glance, each fleeting brush of skin, is charged with meaning, creating a rhythm that is both tender and exhilarating. Outside, the bright suburban lights filter into the room, illuminating her dark hair, lightly tanned skin, and expressive eyes. The room feels suspended in time, as if the world outside does not exist. This is the peak, the moment when both understand that one night has already shifted their hearts irrevocably, leaving the tension between desire and restraint exquisitely palpable. The first light of morning begins to fill the room. The 22-year-old man notices the quiet rhythm of her breathing, the 40-year-old American Caucasian woman with long black hair now standing by the doorway, her dark brown eyes soft, reflective. Lightly tanned skin, subtle freckles, curvy figure, and cream sweater complement her graceful, mature presence. The bright, sunlit suburban home casts a gentle warmth over the scene, heightening the tender intimacy between them. They exchange small gestures, a lingering glance, a half smile, fingers brushing briefly. The weight of unspoken emotions hangs in the air. She gently touches his arm before stepping back, a quiet acknowledgement of the night's shared connection. He watches, heart swelling, as she retreats to another room, leaving him suspended between longing and acceptance. Though it was meant to be just one night, the emotional intimacy forged in the bright warmth of her home has created a bond neither can easily forget. The silence that follows is not empty. It is a space filled with memory, desire, and the promise of connection. He realizes that one night may have been all she intended, but for him, it is the beginning of a deeper understanding and profound respect for the woman who has touched his heart so completely.